Right, let's get reaction now to these developments as we speak to economic freedom fighters, a member of parliament, Sinawo Tambo. Sinawo, good to have you and thank you very much for your time. Even before the two-pot system, we spoke to you in February. You had raised this issue already in January, wrote to the Treasury, wrote to the Minister of Labour. In fact, you marched, if I remember very well, to one of those places. It seems the issue here, again, managing and ensuring the payment of the funds is still a big issue. 6 billion rands at the time, you were saying would have been the amount. It's much more now because I believe even more companies, we were talking 2,000 then, we are talking 3,262 it seems now, companies that are non-compliant. You are saying even local government municipalities are non-compliant, retail sector also non-compliant. At the time we were just talking security companies. But when you would have said 6 billion rands is being looted in these funds, if the Treasury were to do what they're supposed to do based on being the custodians of the Pension Fund Act, what exactly should have happened?
Thank you, Thabo, and I'm glad that you're the one who traces that history, because there seems to be a misconception that the pension fund adjudicator is the one that has raised the alarm here. When the EFF, of course, started this journey in January 2024, which you are part of as well. Look, we expected the Minister of Finance and Treasury to take the advice of the EFF, which we gave to them in February already, and that at the time related to private security companies and being contracted by municipalities while they're in violation of Section 13A of the Pension Funds Act. So municipalities, state-owned enterprises, and government departments were contracting these private security companies, which were not obliging to the labor laws of South Africa. But of course, as you've said, the situation has gotten worse. In fact, local government municipalities, about 172 of them now, owe about R1 billion to the pension funds of their municipal employees. This puts this to a 7 billion of non-compliance between the private security companies and the municipalities alone. And we expected Enoch Godongwana, whom we wrote to 8 months ago, to execute his responsibility as the head of Treasury, is to ensure that these local government municipalities operate within the laws of South Africa because they are under his custodianship in terms of who they contract and also in terms of ensuring that when they deduct money from employees, they pay it over to pension funds, and this has not happened. And it's concerning for us that he's not executing his executive responsibility as someone whom we know was implicated in the theft of pension funds of workers in the textile and clothing industry back in 2011 to the tune of 93 million rand using Canyon Springs. So we are left with no other conclusion to make than to think that he's partly involved, complicit, deliberately, because he's someone with a dubious history with pension funds. And that is why we've written to the Speaker of Parliament to establish an ad hoc committee to investigate the theft of workers' monies and ensure that it is repaid. And we're not going to stop this journey that we started. We're glad that the pension funds adjudicator is now joining us. We're not happy with the fact that she seems to be just shifting responsibilities and not telling us what she has done to ensure workers' money is not stolen. But the journey continues, and we hope that no political party that is governing in local municipalities that are not compliant is going to try to block this ad hoc committee because it's happening in municipalities where they are governing.
The Private Security Sector Provident Fund seems to think it's not necessarily their job to, one, manage and ensure this payment is done. But a proper reading of 13A seems to place a degree of responsibility on them. So are they also in breach to an extent here?
Absolutely. So fund administrators, and that is what the EFF is proposing in its proposal to the Speaker, that there must be an ad hoc committee. Fund administrators are part and parcel of the people who are complicit in the misappropriation of workers' funds and plausible theft of these workers' funds as well, because they are the ones who are supposed to ensure that there's monthly contributions, and they raise the alarm timelessly when people are defaulting and not complying the contributions they're supposed to make. And I'll give you an example of corruption that pension fund administrators do. There's a pension fund administrator now of the Municipal Employment Pension Fund that is a Khani Pension Fund Administrators, whose CEO, Zamani Lichan, used the money of the municipal pension funds to buy land from himself. So while he's a pension fund administrator of the municipal pension funds, he sells land to the very same fund that he's administering at exorbitant rates, about 333 million, and then recoups those profits as well. So that is the type of collusion that is happening between funds administrators and municipal managers and municipal pension funds, between private security companies and pension fund administrators of those companies as well. So those who are presiding over these funds are part and parcel of them going missing, which is why an ad hoc committee is going to have to trace over the past 20 years because non-compliance goes above 20 years, according to the Financial Sector Conduct Authority report. And we have to trace that money. So we have to call people who were municipal managers before, pension fund managers before, and call in the bargaining councils, call in the trade unions, call in the FSCA, call in CIRA, which has also been not cooperative with anyone who wants to interact with them. Even the Department of Labor has been complaining about them as well. So the ad hoc committee is going to do this broad-ranging thing, and we need that ad hoc committee to be constituted by the Department of Labor, expertise from law, and also expertise from finance, because it affects various spheres of governance. And again, we know DA municipalities are implicated. We know ANC municipalities are implicated. IFP municipalities are implicated. We hope they don't block this in Parliament, because they are part and parcel of the corruption and theft of workers' money.
So the breach of Section 13A must be reported to the NPA, to the SAPS, to take criminal action against the employers. Have you done that? Why have you not? If you have, what has been the response? If you have not, why have you not?
Look, it's been a step-by-step process for us. If you remember, we started with a meeting with the Department of Labor, the Bargaining Council, the CCMA. At the labor level, we've had those engagements and we're satisfied with the responses we got. We've met with the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. We haven't met with the regulator, which is CIRA, because they were not wanting to meet with us. We haven't met with the Treasury or the Minister of Finance. We didn't even request a meeting with him. We just gave him what he needed to do. He didn't interact with us. He didn't comply with us. So those are the legislative measures that we've been able to take. But at the end of the day, which is the advice that we got from the FSCA and the Department of Labor, it has to be the workers themselves at an individual level who place cases and open cases against these non-compliant employers. And they've had a challenge in that regard, because when they go to police stations, they are referred to regulators such as CIRA, they are referred to the Department of Labor, because police stations are not capacitated to deal with financial crimes of this nature. So there's a miscommunication, which is why that ad hoc committee will bring together all of these departments, because one department seems to think that it can't encroach on finance affairs. The other finance department states that it can't encroach on labor affairs. Police say they can't encroach on labor affairs as well. So we're running around in circles and no one is being held accountable, because every sphere of governance is denying its responsibilities. And I was watching the interview earlier on with the pension funds adjudicator, who's also not taking any responsibility for, because she's been a pension funds adjudicator since 2013. That's almost 11 years. What has she done? Because this non-compliance spans over her term of office as well. So we need Parliament, we need a legislative intervention, because these different spheres of governance and law enforcement are not willing to be accountable independently. So we want to bring them together into one table so that everyone gives us an answer and we can get the workers' money back.
Going forward, looking ahead, I mean, do you think it should still remain compulsory that security companies affiliate with the private security sector provident fund? Because it seems now it's compulsory that they make contributions to this particular fund.
We need to develop entirely new legislative mechanisms of how we regulate the private security sector in South Africa. I mean, the case of the 95 Libyan foreign nationals who set up a military camp in Mpumalanga should be a case in point of the incompetence of regulation of private security companies in South Africa, of the lack of regard of employees, of workers, and of workers' rights in the sector in general. So we need to develop new mechanisms of regulating and oversight over that process, which is what we want to achieve through an ad hoc committee, because the current mechanisms in place have clearly been inadequate. You can't have a George municipality, for example, which is run by the DA in the Western Cape, not compliant with paying its pension funds for over 240 months. You can't have Mafoko Security, which is contracted in various spheres of governance here in South Africa and SOEs and state-owned enterprises, not being compliant, but it's one of the biggest security companies in the country. And there's no consequence measures. Their operational licenses remain in place. No one is arrested. No one's assets are being seized to pay back workers' monies. So we're trying to press a restart button in a sector that is riddled by corruption, non-compliance, and incompetence at a regulatory level. And we should get this ad hoc committee in place if anything is to change. Otherwise, we're going to keep speaking around in circles and speak about this matter. The last time I spoke to you, you reminded me it wasn't the first time it was being raised. It was raised in 2017 in Parliament as well. So we can't keep on going to press a restart button and starting this matter as if it's new every single time. We need to reach finality, and the ad hoc committee is going